Okay, so today we're going to talk about classification. So we have over 13 billion known species of organisms. New organisms are still being found and identified. So what is classification? Classification is the arrangement of organisms into an orderly group based on their similarities. Classification systems are constantly changing as new species are being discovered, and molecular DNA evidence show how they're related. So the first classification system had only plants and animals. Up until 2005, there were only 5 kingdoms. One of those kingdoms was bacteria. And today we have 6 kingdoms and 2 bacteria groups. Taxonomy is the field of classifying organisms and assigning each organism a universally accepted name, and we call that a binomial nomenclature. Bi means two. It's a two-word naming system invented by Carolus Linnaeus. Binomial nomenclature uses the same language for all names. It's always italicized. The first word is the genus, that's capitalized. The second word is species, and species is always lowercase. It's the genus and the species. And very importantly, when you write a binomial nomenclature, you underline it. So this is an example of a binomial nomenclature. Another term also is the scientific name. So for Homo sapiens, as humans, right? Homo is the genus. The genus is always capitalized. Sapiens is the species, and species is always lowercase, and it's italicized. If we were writing this, we would underline it. So we use a binomial nomenclature system because there was confusion in using different languages for the names. The scientists wanted to communicate with other scientists, but they couldn't because of the language barrier. So with a binomial nomenclature system, everyone uses the Latin name and everyone knows what species or animal that they're talking about. So all life is classified into 3 domains. 3 domains, 6 kingdoms based on common characteristics. The 3 domains are archaea, bacteria, and eukarya. Archaea, bacteria, and eukarya. Archaeans, they are unicellular prokaryotes. They live in extreme, harsh environments. And another term for archaeans is extremophiles because they live in those harsh environments. Bacteria are also unicellular prokaryotes, and those are your pathogens. And eukarya are your plants, animals, and fungi. Each domain can be broken down into a more specific level based on the shared characteristics. So the domains are kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. Therefore, binomial nomenclature, we name organisms based on their 2 most specific terms, the genus and the species. The broadest taxon is the domain, and the most specific taxon is the species. The broadest meaning it has the most organisms in it. The domain has the most organisms in it, then kingdom, phylum, class, order, etc. And the species is the most specific. It might have 1 or 2 organisms in it. This is another look at the taxa. And a way to remember is the way I remembered it in college. Dumb King Philip came over for good soup. You do have to know the exact order of the taxon. So if I ask you a question, what taxa is between phylum and order? If you remember the saying, you can tell me class right away. This is the classification for humans. Humans are in the domain Eukarya. That's because we have a nucleus. And we are, of course, eukaryotes. We are in the kingdom Animalia because we are multicellular. We're in the phylum of chordates because we have that nerve cord going down our back. We are in the class of mammals because we have hair and we feed our young with our mammary glands. We are in the order of primates because we're adapted to climb trees. We're in the family of Hominidae because we are adapted to walk upright on, 2 legs. We're in the genus of Homo because we have a large brain, and the species of sapien because our body proportions are of modern humans. One thing to note though, when you look up the classification of any organism, the species may contain a scientific name already. Like this one, species contain both the genus and the species, which is Homo sapiens. So what is the basis for modern taxonomy? Homologous structures. Remember homologous structures? Same structure but different function. The arm of a human, the flipper of a whale, the leg of a horse. Another basis for modern taxonomy is similar embryo development. And of course, DNA, RNA, amino acid sequence of proteins. So let's get a little deeper into the domain Archaea. Domain Archaea was probably the first cell to evolve. They live in harsh environments. We also call them extremophiles. We find Archaeans in sewage treatment plants, volcanic vents, hot springs, the Dead Sea. They obtain their nutrition by being both autotrophs and heterotrophs. They respond to phototaxis and chemotaxis, and they move using a flagella. This is an example of an Archaean. Notice the scientific name on the bottom, Methanosarcina mazzi. Notice how the genus is capitalized, the species is lowercase, and the scientific name is italicized. Domain bacteria, they are both autotrophs. They obtain their nutrition. They can be both autotrophs and heterotrophs. Some may cause a disease. They are found in all habitats except for harsh ones. They can be decomposers. We use them in making cottage cheese, yogurt, buttermilk, etc. And here are some examples of domain bacteria. Staphylococcus aureus. Notice the scientific term, the binomial nomenclature. Staphylococcus is capitalized, aureus is lowercase, and both are italicized. Another example, we know it as E. coli, but it's actually Escherichia coli. And again, Notice how the scientific term is written. Domain Eukarya is divided into 4 kingdoms. So domain Archaea is the kingdom is still Archaea or Archaebacteria, and domain Bacteria is still kingdom Bacteria or Eubacteria, the same term. But domain Eukarya is divided into 4 kingdoms: kingdom Protista, fungi, plantae, and animalia. Kingdom Protista are mostly unicellular. Some are multicellular. They can be both autotrophs and heterotrophs, and they live in aquatic environments. An example would be Euglena, amoebas, volvox, parameciums, etc. Kingdom fungi are multicellular except for yeast. They are absorptive heterotrophs. That means they digest their food outside their body and then absorb it. They have cell walls made of chitin. Kingdom plantae are multicellular autotrophs. They absorb sunlight to make food. Of course, we're talking about the process of photosynthesis, and their cell walls are made of cellulose. Kingdom Animalia are ingestive heterotrophs. They consume food and digest it inside their bodies, and they feed on plants and animals. And we are, of course, in the kingdom Animalia. So we have 6 kingdoms: Protista, fungi, plantae, and animalia all belong to domain Eukarya. Kingdom Archaebacteria is under domain Archaea, and kingdom Eubacteria is under domain Bacteria. Almost finished. Most genera contain a number of similar species. The genus Homo is the only exception because it only contains us, modern humans. And classification is based on evolutionary relationships.